सुप्रभात। तो environmental destruction. पहले let me tell you guys why I wanted to talk about this topic. About एक महीना पहले I had a debate competition and उसमें we were talking about how environment and environmental destruction is a crime against humanity. And obviously I spoke for that topic. It is a crime against humanity. Or I wanted to kind of speak more about that. Let me first tell you guys what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about environmental destruction as a whole and how our governments and how even bodies like UN seek to, in a way, distract us from the actual problems. And that includes environmental destruction, that includes Israel-Palestine, that includes Russia-Ukraine, and all, in fact, all of the wars and genocides and civil wars that are happening in the world right now. Environmental destruction is basically a harm, deterioration, depletion of resources and things that happen around us in our environment, of course. And that could include wildlife, that could include the habitat, the place you live in. So that includes war, that includes genocides, that includes everything that ruins your environment in itself. That is what environmental destruction is. Who are the people that are suffering the most from environmental destruction? Environmental destruction also includes fast fashion, and jo companies, Western companies, build their factories in underdeveloped and developing nations जानबूझ के ताकि सस्ते में labor मिले, और they can exploit the labor in different ways and resources सस्ते में मिल जाए. And China also does this, by the way. Obviously, we are all aware of the made in China products. ठीक है. The people that are suffering the most from this are Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Sudan. In fact, all of the developing countries, underdeveloped countries, are the ones who are suffering from this problem. That maybe because they are in the peripheral region, तो naturally global warming हो रहा है, या फिर climate change हो रहा है, naturally global warming हो रहा है. That might be the reason, but also another reason is because of the factories that are there, जो ये companies डाल रही हैं, calling it free trade or whatever.
Yo edit करते वक्त I realized I wanted to talk about something else as well. What I want to talk about initially is I want to expand on what I mean by free trade and trade protectionism in this context, is that our constitution has given the right to the parliament कि आप laws बनाओ about the free trade and under the Free Trade Act, but that should be in the benefit of the people. It should not go against what the people want. It should be in the public's interest. So let's hypothetically say that I am some outsider, I am a person from the USA, and I want to create a factory in India, and that factory will harm a lot of their resources. So obviously, like, if the government says that that should be fine, let's do that, let's allow you to trade, and that's obviously wrong because it's harming the public interest and it's harming the people and harming what they have to live for, है ना? So in the same manner, that is what I'm trying to say, कि the parliament has the right to say, to create laws, right, if it goes against the public's interest. And obviously the half the trade that countries like US, China, whatever, trade या फिर creating factories, what they do is that they create factories there, they stand on factories, and वो harm करती हैं the people that live there, whether it's regarding their soil, their land, or whether that's regarding their jobs and their security and their house and their livelihood. So that is initially what I want to differentiate between trade protectionism, which is something that Trump is doing right now, and between free trade. It is obvious that there should be like a fine line, and a line that should distinguish between the two, and when it's allowed to do something and when it's not.
अब जैसे for example, अभी थोड़े दिन पहले ट्रम्प का आया है about his views on the new India-Russia relations and how India is, moving along with China, which is obviously a horrible thing, should not happen. But initially, Trump is obviously very mad, and थोड़े टाइम पहले ही Apple was about to put the factories in our country, and चाहे वो हो भी जाए, like even if they put the factories in India, the problem is not, it's not just कि they're putting the factories in India, it's like who is it displacing? Factories जल्द से लगा भी दी, अच्छी quality में नहीं लगाई, it's going to create problems, it's going to displace people, it is going to take them away from their actual jobs, their actual homes, their lifestyle, their wildlife, everything, and resources जो India में है. Example, Naxalite movement, we're all aware of that. But let's also talk about who creates these problems. Okay. First of all, yes, India is responsible for like 250 million tons of biomass, which is a lot in air pollution, which is a lot. Do you know how much of it is produced by just one singular person, like one singular family in one single corporation? 45 million tons of it is produced by the Ambanis. Yeah, 45 million tons of it, of 250 million tons of biomass is produced by Ambanis. And jitna bhi, anyone who says ki, oh, but they create so many jobs and all of that, the fact of the matter is they don't. They just laid off so many people from their offices, and yeah, sure, they're making so many jobs, creating so many jobs, while also depleting people from their actual wild lives. They don't have a choice but to join these companies. You do realize that, right? They don't have anything other than that. There's a person, Christopher Hitchens, he said owners of dogs will have noticed that if you provide them with food and water and shelter and affection, they will think that you're God. And that is exactly what happens when we make people who own corporations, who are billionaires, into gods. And ye koi bhi ho, this is Elon Musk, Ambani, Adani, anyone who owns a lot of money and you think of them as an inspiration because you want to become like them, we are all aware that you are more likely to be a Palestinian kid than you are to be a billionaire. Like, there's no way you can even think about becoming one of those people. You're not going to. Those self-help book पढ़ के कुछ नहीं होने वाला है. It is not possible. We talk about the Ambani wedding and who came to that wedding and how much money and everything was spent. Do you know how many people were displaced because of that wedding and even just the engagement? Do you know how many people were displaced creating those things and उनको jobs नहीं मिल रही हैं अब? Like, हमें सिर्फ चीज़ें ऊपर से दिखती हैं. We don't actually know the shit that goes in deep. Like, we are so unaware of it. And हम इतना respect करते हैं अम्बानीज़ को because, you know, they have a lot of money, they spend so much money on their wedding, and we're treating them as literal gods, when in reality they are literally one of the most horrible people on this planet. Absolutely insane to me. 2019 में 1%, like the super rich 1% people were responsible for more carbon emissions than 66% of humanity. That was 5 billion people at that time. It's not just small jet trips, you know what, Taylor Swift ek do jet trips kar rahi hai and it's leading to that. It's more than just that. It is so much more than just ek do round of jet trips that we think are ruining the environment, which they are ruining the environment, but that's not all. That is not all. It's the things that these people have created that are ruining our lives now. And it is literally what happens when I read the book 1984. Like, it's literally the same exact thing. Because similar to that book, जैसे they were depleting people of their resources, they were depleting people all the time. Like, कभी एक second one of the things is going, it's depleting. जैसे for example, hypothetically, कोई rubber deplete हो रहा है, कभी कोई stamps deplete हो रहे हैं, पैसे है ही नहीं, कुछ नहीं है. The same exact thing happens with environment as well. कभी ना कभी अचानक से something will go like deplete, have depletion, and we'll work on that, and then we'll forget about everything else. And that is exactly, in my opinion, happened with the India-Pakistan war. And that's exactly what happens when we talk about Russia-Ukraine, we talk about Bangladesh. The thing is, अचानक से something will happen in the country and we will forget about everything. And the same exact thing is happening right now with the dogs issue, and same exact thing is happening with the election commission and vote chori. Is that the moment the vote chori and the topic about vote chori came up, what happened? Dogs issue, Supreme Court gave a judgment, right? So it's like, and I know people are still talking about the vote chori and you cannot distinguish environment with like politics. It's all connected. Every single thing is connected to politics, and that is a fact. The government and the UN and everything will do anything to distract you from the truth, and they have been doing that in the past, and they will continue to do that in the future, and that is a fact. That is exactly why I wanted to connect this segment to the book 1984, because just similar like how they brainwash people, how horribly they treat people, and similar to the book, right? How much they distract us, the middle class people, the people with knowledge, the people that want to gain more knowledge, forcing them into some subconscious scenario and then not letting them have the full information because they distract them so often, going from one problem to another problem. For example, book mein there was this one area when George Orwell talked about how yesterday only 20% of our economy was like lower, and the next day 20% वापस बढ़ गया, and it's like people are celebrating that 20%, but in reality वही 20% कल गिरा था. So it's like that is kind of what is happening. Like they're distracting the countries in a war with someone else and the ally with someone else, but in the other second they're like having a war with someone else and being allies with that same country they were at war with. So it's like similar to that in a way.